So, yeah.
I got a notification that I started live stream.
For real? Interesting.
Even. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, we've started, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
We
When
are,
we are through.
we are live.
I got a notification that I started live stream.
Yes, I can see it now as well. So it's
For
live.
real?
All
Interesting.
right,
Even.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, we've started, right?
Yes. Just so that we don't get the whole back, I'm just going to mute the live audio so it doesn't come out to our audio. All right. Hi, folks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this fifth anniversary chat. Basically, most of the time when we have our activities, you get to only see a couple of us. Sometimes you see Kenny, sometimes you see Eben, sometimes you see Chimdi. But the idea for today is that we want to have a space where you can get to meet other members of the team and get to hear more about what we're doing, hear the stories behind our work for the past 5 years, hear the funny story behind how we even started this whole thing from the beginning, right? How everything has grown. And sort of like the stories behind the impact metrics that you saw share over the past couple of days. So we have Kenny here, Chimdi, and Toby. Terry and Comfy will join us in due course. So we're going right into the conversation. Chimdi had shared this very interesting tweet a couple of days ago. I think it was on my birthday that
Yes.
he mentioned me on this tweet. Such a funny tweet. Um, and I mean, we plan for this not to be another workshop. I know we do so many workshops, so we're not going to share our screen so much. I just wanted to share this one to be able to show you how this whole thing all began. So funny. So this was June, right? In June 2020, in May, MIT and this was during COVID. So MIT and Stanford, their economics as associations had announced that they were doing a COVID-19 policy hackathon, right? And yeah, and it was just like COVID, most of us were at home, not so much was happening, right? And I can't remember where I saw the application. Now, I've been thinking about it for a while, but I just can't remember. I'll see if I can trace it. But yeah, I saw the application online. I applied, and I told them that because like I saw the tracks for the hackathon, and I told them that I think they should put an education track because I think education is also a big deal. And I think that's something that they should look at, etc., etc. Basically, made a case for it. So they then replied. Long story short, they replied and I said, "Oh, which is this email screenshot that I then put on Twitter." And then they said, since they don't have a track for education, they're like, oh, you can do an education policy memo, but we don't have a track for it. However, if you want to go ahead, you should form a team. So they're like, find a team to be able to do this. Basically, so they put the idea of forming the team as my own responsibility, which then became part of what we do at Policy Shapers, right? We actually do allow the people who hack to find their own teams and form their own teams because I mean, who knows what can come out of that, right? Just as it came out with us. Anyway, long story short, so find your own team. So I took the screenshot, came to Twitter that day in June 2020, June 5th, 2020. I made a post and said, hey guys, got on this thing, blah, blah, blah. If you want to join the team, let us talk. I think I posted on WhatsApp as well. And yeah, and most people just kept saying, congrats, even, congrats, even, congrats, even. Nobody was really saying they wanted to be on the team. Most of everything was congratulations. I think it was just Chimdi that actually said, Chimdi, I can't find your tweet. Maybe it was your old account, right? It
Yes,
was
yes, yes.
Chimdi. Yeah, it was Chimdi who then said, oh, let us DM. But most of the other people were just like, you're doing amazing things. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. So Chimdi replied and said, let us get on the team. And then I think Kenny saw it on WhatsApp. Kenny Comfy saw it on WhatsApp. Terry saw it on WhatsApp. I think Toby saw it on WhatsApp too, right? Or was he on X? I can't remember now. I'm gonna throw the question to you guys shortly. But yeah, that actually was how we, would I say, stumbled into becoming a team from just randomly getting on a policy hack. And yeah, and everything else that you saw for the past 5 years, it began from that tweet and that hackathon and just dominoed into everything else. So I'll throw my first question to you guys, right? As part of this chat, just to hear your thoughts. What inspired you at the time, if you think about it now, five years ago, what inspired you at the time to want to be part of the policy hack? I know Kenny was studying microbiology. Um, Comfy was working in agriculture. Like Toby was doing work in IT and ICT. Chimdi was in the US, I think, at the time, doing his programming diplomacy. So, like, we have diverse fields. So, what's really like inspired you guys to want to get on that thing? And yeah, and look at where that has taken us to. So, let's start with Comfy. Comfy first, then we can go Kenny, Chimdi, and Toby.
Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Congratulations to us as Policy Shapers on our 5th anniversary. Imagine if we were a young boy running around the streets or the compound. If we're a human, if Policy Shapers as an organization, not the people behind the vision, the child would have been running around the compound. That's what I meant to say. Yes, so for me, I would like to say that even though I was doing some agricultural, driving some agricultural intervention at the time, my first degree was political science. So yes, I already have policy, either public policy, running through my veins. It's just that at the time, I was focusing on the economic development side of things through direct intervention. So, and you already know, I had an organization. One of our thematic areas was actually is policy advocacy. So, and policy advocacy for us is cross-cutting regardless of the thematic areas. It could be health, it could be as far as it impacts or affects humans. So we need to advocate for that, for policy, regardless of what aspect of the society. So personally, because the pandemic happened, threw us in a place where, for me, I was a bit confused. I was like, what's going to happen? I felt like the world was going to come to an end, and and at the same time, I was beginning to rethink my career. I was beginning to rethink doing something that would have a broader influence, leveraging technology, because the COVID pandemic also launched us or ushered us into that era where we had no choice than to adopt digital technologies to drive whatever it is you want to drive. So for me, it was just that it became a launch pad for my voice to be heard strongly within that policy space. So that was my major inspiration, because again, even though, so when I graduated from the university, I had said to myself that at every point in my career, because political science, we would always argue with the law students that, oh, political science is the parent of them all. Because when you study political science, there is international law and diplomacy, there is public policy, there is public administration and everything. So I said to myself that at every point in time, I'll pick a strand of this, political science. I'll pick something and focus on that. So it then becomes building block and gives me the opportunity to broaden my experience and be able to operate in different aspects of the society. Yeah, globally. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comfort. And to piggyback that, off of that rather, it's I'm a microbiologist. I see am, as Eben suggested, but maybe a backstory. I think I have worked with Eben closely. Two of us were selected as a youth lead ambassador, and for Nigeria, so we did some project together on International Youth Day for a week. And working with Eben is like, it's very fast paced. It was like a machine, it was transformative. I was like, and so Eben posted that, oh yeah, there's this COVID-19 policy hackathon. So yeah, even though I was a microbiologist, I started the first SDGs, club in Nigeria on campus. So at the time, I was leading over 10,000 students across 8 universities. But I was never interested in policy. But COVID taught me one particular lesson. And I saw for the first time if policymakers are not knowledgeable, a lot of policies are coming out as an effect of the pandemic. And the people that are making them are not scientists, so they don't even know the basis of the pandemic. So when I saw the competition, it was titled COVID-19 Policy Hackathon. I was like, let me be the scientist in this space. These people cannot make informative decision on what science can explain without being there. So for me, it's more of like just coming in to share my expertise in data research. And it was about the future of education, regarding, I think we worked on education hackathon then, regarding how COVID-19 has shaped it. So I was actively involved in the education process. I happen to be a microbiologist, so I know what can work and what cannot work for current and future pandemics. And just an opportunity to go off there. I had thought though that would be it for me, just the competition. I'm just gonna stop there. But when I ventured into what it is, what policy truly is, I saw that it happens to be the thread that kind of hold all developmental proceedings. And if any of those initiatives we do, be it my SDGs, the CLIS Foundation from Comfort, even Toby's work, all of them, if the policy disagrees with everything, all what we are doing, we just run down. So I was like, I'm just going to stay when he pitched the idea to start policy shapers. And it's been a wonderful ride since then.
Yes. So I'll go next. I also agree. It's been a wonderful experience. And my own story is that I had just traveled to the US to start my master's. And then I don't know, one of those days I was just thinking, I saw an opportunity, Ban Ki-moon, ambassador, all this, Ban Ki-moon, peace
Ban Ki-moon
ambassador,
Center, Peace Center,
application. I think I did apply or so, and I got a response that was not selected, that kind of thing, or something happened. So I was just thinking, I said, I'm out of school. I'm done with my bachelor's degree. Yet I've not had any of these ambassador, SDG, whatever, like SDG ambassador, Ban Ki-moon ambassador, UN this. I've not had any of that. I've not won it. So I don't know. That faithful day, I just was going through Twitter, scrolling. And before now, I've been following Eben. I saw Eben, he won this Africa something award. There was this award that they do, in media award. Even you remember the award that you're not able
the
to
Future
attend.
Africa, I remember that.
Future Africa Award. Yes,
Even
he had just won it. He posted it. He was also posting so many things. So I was following him. He's a celebrity. So me, I'm the guy. I think he had up to 10,000, 9,000 something followers. I'm just this guy with 1,000 followers following him, watching. So he just posted that stuff that day that, if you are interested, I'm like, even if it's not for the competition, let me just stay close to this guy. I just messaged him immediately, like, please, let's DM. That's how we DM. And he created a WhatsApp group. And as he said, most people were commenting on the Twitter page, but only few people reached out to him. And today we have policy shapers out of that experience. And it's been a great experience personally for me. And over the past 5 years, I've seen that growth for me. It helped me during my master's program, whether I was conducting research, how to conduct research for policy, a research work in the academic that was relevant in the policy world. So this experience has been helpful, and I want to say thank you to Eben for giving us the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you to you too. I mean, just as we both said, right? Most people, like, I think thinking about the experience now makes me also cautious about how I also like engage on social media as well, right? Because like most people just kept saying, comment, there's so many comments. I think there are like 40 comments. Congratulations. And I feel like most times I get into that group of just seeing something and just saying congratulations without even reading what the person even said, So sometimes I feel like that. So that looking at that it gave me sort of like a lesson to say, like, like I should be more attentive when I even engage on social media, because there could be opportunities out there and who knows what could lead to what, and stuff like that. All right, Toby, what about you?
I think, I mean, for me, it was, of course, it was Eben who shared it. And I think I was the last person that joined. You guys already sort of had a group already, and I'm like, oh, shit. And then I did look up, what was his name, Kenya, and I'm like, oh, this guy used to do a lot of stuff in SDG. This might look like a really cool stuff, because at that time I was applying for Chipney and I was trying.
Why are you just telling me that you looked me up?
And I'm like this, this was like a really great time, because I was going to do a master's in international development, and that a lot of it was going to be policy, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is the Lord saying that I should take a little bit of this part of development work more seriously. And I didn't eventually even know at that time that I would eventually have COVID and all the shaggy I saw with COVID. But I think the really good part about it was also how, despite not essentially knowing, of course, I've known Eben, before that time for almost 10 years or something. But like but not knowing every other person in the group, how we're able to still come together to still work on stuff, despite the pandemic and a lot of, the bad news or good news, depending on what part of the world, people were at that time, and also still getting it out. But I think what was most interesting for me was the fact that I used to see policy before then as something very tough. Like, I'm like, oh, the people doing this thing are like superhumans. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that was a policy note. That wasn't hard, and then, started doing a lot more stuff. But I think it was really, really good experience for me. Yeah.
And we should not forget that we actually sort of won the first competition, despite our naive.
We actually scored. Actually, I'll do my best to find that score sheet. We actually scored 40 something over 50, despite being just like engaging with it for the first time. And I think Toby made a good point, because that experience sort of like demystified public policy to us too as well. I feel like we did have ideas of what public policy was as individuals, but I think that experience made us feel, oh, wait a minute, it's not that hard. It's not as complicated as people sort of like make it sound, right? And definitely that's something we should share with every other person. Okay, so let's go right into the conversation, right? I think a few people might have seen our impact numbers and they might be wondering, this policy shapers people, this 100,000 people, this 1,000 people, this how did you guys achieve all of this? And I think because I made a post on LinkedIn this past week, where I was telling people that, like, for the most part, if not for the first 4 years, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you. Yeah,
you can.
I think it's Comfort's network. I don't know.
Comfy.
I can hear you. Okay, can hear you now.
You can now. Okay, sorry. Okay. I was telling people that for the most part, even for the first 4 years, we didn't even like meet ourselves physically. Like, Toby was in the UK, Kenya and Chindu were in the US, in 2 different cities far away from each other. Terry was in Abuja, then she moved to Lagos. I was in Port Harcourt, and then Workster took me to Kenya and then South Africa. Confident eventually moved to Australia. So for the most part, we actually didn't get to meet ourselves. But I think that one of the kind of models of building an organization, especially like a civic startup, I think that we've been able to somehow prove that it actually is possible, that you can pass through the time and time zone and space barrier and sort of like come together. And the fact that we also did this together, because thinking as 6 young Nigerians who care about the country, who want to be able to contribute to the country, I think that fire and that passion really started to burn in us. And I think that's what led to everything else that is here. But I will just start with the first one, Comfy, if you can hear me. The first point on over 100,000 people mobilized. A lot of those people came from Reform IELTS, right? So what was the experience of us? Because I feel that this is how most people got to know about us. That's like one of our first big campaigns. And we were challenging, from the first thing we were doing, we were going to challenge very troublesome people. We're challenging very strong powers and institutions around the world on English proficiency tests. And so, like, as someone who saw the back end of everything that happened with that campaign, what are some of the things that came to your mind? What are some of the thoughts you have about that campaign? Yeah, and how we're able to do that?
Yeah, so for me, I would say first it was just demonstrating the power of leverage, leveraging social media, which at the time that we started Policy Shapers became the launch pad for every one of us to connect and start this beautiful thing that became like a Harmattan fire. Everybody caught the bug and it was a beautiful thing. So for me, I would also say that because what we were doing was one of its kind, I do not think that as a young person in Nigeria, I've seen this kind of movement happen in my adult age. And I don't know about you guys, but yes, on social media. So technology made it easy. We were already at a time where, because of the pandemic, everybody was active on, social media. And then secondly, it was need-based. You know how you know how we say loosely that you go touch everybody. This one is something where don't touch everybody. Like, so majority of Nigerians were already at the verge of, I mean, people have been migrating for a very long time. So majority of Nigerians were also looking to migrate as well. But regardless of the restraint by the pandemic, it was easy to then mobilize those youth who, some of them were not necessarily idle at the time, but because they were also in the social media space, very active, it was easy for them to see a genuine cause that would impact them positively and jump, on the bandwagon. I usually do not like bandwagon, but this is that one beautiful bandwagon that was willing to jump on. And likewise, other young people, because for me, as a person, I don't understand why I would actually pay to write this IELTS exam. And change.org, fortunately, gave us that leverage point for us to ride on their initiative, the petitioning, mobilize people. And we're not an organization that just look at numbers for the sake of it. Like, we were able to leverage that number, the data of the people we worked on, and use that as a strategy now to engage further and expand our cause beyond the initial hackathon we participated in. Then, looking at how we could also create that platform for young people to drive meaningful cause in the society. So again, one of the beautiful things that made it work for us, I would say, is the diversity. So we have that, we are a team of diverse young people from different fields, different experiences. We will, and let me quickly say this. So you know how when we're doing the hackathon, we were able to divide the responsibility based on our forte or area of expertise. So I saw that in play even after the hackathon that we participated in.
Yeah.
In facilitating several other activities of policy shapers. So that really, really, really worked in terms of engagement. The media also, gave us, we were able to leverage this IELTS campaign to engage with the media. And the media was actually coming to us, like, how organizations will even pay the media to put out press reports.
Yeah.
But this time, like, the media was literally scrambling for us to engage. So lending credence to the credibility of our work. So it wasn't just for the ops. It was such an impactful engagement. So we're not just doing it like, okay, this is another, noise that young people, and they were seeing the results. So because they were seeing the results, it was also easy for these young people to take ownership of it. Like, we did not just sit down and say, this is policy shapers, we are the ones driving it. We were able to create that template or a playbook for young people to take ownership of the cause and run with it, advocating regardless of the country they were in. Remember how, I remember, I don't know if I was the one who made that suggestion. I don't, you know what, let's create like a template, a letter that would just give them blank space, and all they need to do is to fill in their schools and their name and own it. Yeah, everybody should own it. And for the first time, youth felt included. We gave everybody table and asked them to bring their seat. So bringing your seat in this context meant come and take this thing and run with it. So it was easy for them to sustain that energy and continue to engage beyond the initial spark.
Yeah, very, very well said. Does anyone want to add anything on Reform IELTS before we move on? But yeah, Comfy was spot on. It was a, post EndSARS, I think it was a way for young Nigerians to sort of like direct the feeling of disappointment that we had during EndSARS towards something, right? So we had a lot of people like engaged. We also had a very engaged Nigerian scholar in Canada, Dr. Muyiwa. I always call him Professor Muyiwa, but Dr. Muyiwa, he was fully engaged, engaging universities, using his position, using his influence to speak to various people. And that's also led to so many like policy reforms in so many universities. So yeah, no, 100% to what Comfy said, that this was a way to get people really, really engaged and to feel ownership. Yeah. Any additional thoughts before we move?
No, as Comfy said, how young Nigerians joined that movement was inspiring. Just like Dr. Muyiwa that Eben mentioned. I think concurrently during that period, he was already sending private emails to these schools. And when we began this stuff and it started gaining ground, 50,000 people, 60,000, he voluntarily joined us. Like, even the letter templates and everything. Once he gets a win, he announces it, he includes us into it. So it was like everyone coming in. Comfort mentioned about media rounds, like the media asking us to come and speak. I remember then, I was shocked. There are sometimes that the media will come, channels, we have to send someone, just not like one of the participants, not any of us that were the
even
leaders.
us. Yeah,
not even us.
Not
the
even
participants represent us in places like channels and other news media. So it was really a collaborative effort that yielded results, and we are grateful for that experience being our first. It's really it showed that what Policy Shapers was all about is more than we had earlier imagined when we started.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on to the next point, because of our time, I know there's so much to talk about. The next one, Chimdi, I'll come to you now, just talking about like our policy literacy program. So we launched Policy Saturday, a policy literacy class that helps to train and prepare people for the policy hackathon, our annual policy hackathons. And yeah, it just came again like just a random idea that we had. And eventually we had, close to 1,000 or 1,000 plus young people taking part in this. People who went through the hackathon and also people who just like watch these things online and make reference to them. What kind of work went on in the back end to be able to make these policy classes, work basically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So as Eben have said, and most of my colleagues have said, our introduction to policy via the hack team was really helpful, and we met the best of judges, MIT professors, Stanford professors, and they were really very detailed in their one-on-one sections with us, what makes a policy. Even the resources they shared with us were very, very detailed. The videos, the trainings, is in a space of 48 hours. They gave us something that could equip anyone to produce a high-level policy. So this was the foundation we came with. So when we finished doing our own, our policy, it was really very standard, very, very standard. So that foundation helped us. We understood that coming into this acting, we didn't know this, but going out, we have these tools with us. And for the average Nigerians, these things are not accessible. So there was need for those trainings to happen. So we organized this before our first acting, once we have brought in participants into the acting, we had to organize a set of program called Policy Saturdays, where we train every of the registered participants on how to write policy memo, the art of advocacy, even how to build your team, how to collaborate within your team. If you remember, the significance of using evidence and data in writing policy, how to develop policy recommendations, how to research for policy, because it's different from different academic research, and even how to address stakeholder engagements, how to make sure that your policy memo is addressed to the main stakeholder. So all of this, we have it in a set of currently maybe more than 15 videos now on YouTube, there, standard. So you can go to Policy Shapers at any point in time and take any of those videos, and you'll be sure that you learn how to do every of these things we've talked about. How to write a policy memo, how to research for a policy memo, how to engage a stakeholder, how to form a team, how to participate in a hack team. So So I'm advising everyone, go now that we still have it free, because we'll soon lock it behind the paywall. So now that it's still free, go. So, but yeah, this is what, just our desire to help Nigerians, young Nigerians, have brought about. And I think this is significant because I went through a Nigerian university for my bachelor's. It was a good one, but even the best of Nigerian universities, if you are studying political science, if you are studying some of these subjects that are diplomacy, international relations, most of them are usually focused on policy. They are heavy on the theory. Sorry, not policy. They are heavy on the theory aspect of it. So when you come out, you have a lot of head knowledge and book knowledge of a lot of things. But how to convert those things into how to use it to make impact in the country has been a missing link for most of the academic program that is being run in most Nigerian institutions up until now. Even the last hacking we had with the Babcock University and some other universities in Nigeria, in the Southwest and in Southeast, those were some of the testimonies that were given to us, that their testimonials were that this hacking offered them an opportunity to convert what they were learning into a practical way to influence what was happening in Nigeria. So that's why we think that these trainings are important. They have been significant. We have seen students with the current SUG president of University of Ibadan is one of our graduates. He passed through policy shapers. In fact, his group, the group he was part of, they were the group that won the first edition of the Niger Policy Hacking. The group of medical doctoral students, they won that hacking. And 1 year later or 2 years later, he has become, the SUG president. And I remember when they won that hacking, after they won, we also helped them they presented some of their recommendations to the National Assembly. So you see how all of these are building blocks that we believe that over time, with much support and with much awareness, that we have those plans in the works to make sure this knowledge, this training that we have gets to as many people as possible, because it's really going to help to convert whatever they are being taught in the school into reality, help them build skills that they can use in the workplaces and in so many other areas of their life. So I think that's why I think the policy trainings that we have are very important. So yeah, you guys can also add into that.
Yeah, no, you said so much that has connected to what I'm going to ask Kenny next, actually. And just to say hello to Terry. Hi Terry, we missed you when we started the conversation. Sorry, we know you were in a meeting. Thanks for joining. So yeah, Tim just said so much about our policy hackathons and how these classes help to build into the hackathons. And Kenny, you are in charge of the Babcock Policy Hack this year, the Nigeria Policy Hack, the Babcock University edition. Can you just share a bit about that experience? What was it like? Because this was the first time that we're moving away from just doing the policy hacks virtually to now engaging with university students and working with Gen Zs and completely whole different generation. I like to think that we are young people, but these are like young people younger than us. So how are we basically able to navigate all of that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Eben. And I think the Nigeria Policy Hackathon happens to be one of our transformative programs and initiatives, because I think it serves three pillars. The first pillar is the learning structure involved. That is, these are individuals, just as Shimdi said, that don't even know that they can turn their frustrations into policies. So we capitalize on the fundamental challenges the nation is facing. And we have all these multiple tracks. We are all policy shapers, but if there's something you've heard from Eben, like I'm a microbiology, Comfort is a food expert, and multiple experts, she does a lot of things. Oluwatobi happens to be a tech. All of us have our life going. So even when we want to write policies, we can write policies on all the challenges. But we have this massive number of people, even before we come to Babcock University, thousands and millions of Nigerians on social media complaining about problems. They see it. And we ride on that particular wind. Okay, that's fine. We will give you the platform. We will train you. So the policy strategies came in. This is how you write the policy. This is how you document your frustrations and bring recommendations. Now let's turn it to a competition because we need to drive people, right? You know, an hackathon that within 3 days, they form their teams. And I think some fascinating about the hackathon is that, like, and as Eben said, it was fascinating because we don't pair people up. They tend to find their team themselves. So people that you are connected by just shared passion, shared purpose. All of you come together, an opportunity to bond, to bring your expertise, and they address a particular problem. And it's so key, and I'll mention some highlights. We bring expert judges with, judges from NESG, judges that are well renowned in society from all over the world, judges people who award cash prizes. But that's the first part of learning and impact. The other part is the impact continues. So the post-hackathon experience, like we are not just writing this for people to learn and participate. We ensure that even the stakeholders they are addressing to it gets to them in the best way we can. And Chimdi mentioned that some people went to the National Assembly. But we're doing this with all youths nationwide. And it was not until last year, I think 2024, we had this proposal from Babcock University. They're like, we've been seeing you guys. We love what you guys are doing. We want to organize one on our campus. And at first, the first thing that came to us is that, like, all of us are virtual workers. We're all over the world. It's literally impossible to do it. But we came together as a team that we can make this work. And I was opportune to co-lead this with Toby. Toby also is here on this call. And I think two things stood out for me in that experience. That was our third edition of a Niger Policy Hackathon. We have a lot of good experience. We could plan it just within 2 weeks or a month and just plan the program. But I think the most important learning point for me is to let the Babcock University student, the executive, to drive the learning curve. And you see this very young, innocent mind, using 2 weeks on what I will use an hour for. And I just have to let them drive. And it was a very interesting experience. There was a time where I think Chimdi kind of called Kenny. I think you're also doing so much more for them. Let them do this. And I had to listen because I was like, oh my God, these guys are struggling with a lot of things. And that was the transformative part. And in one of the testimonials that is currently on our page, the president not only alluded to the impact of the hackathon, but how much it shaped their perspective in organizing such program. So I think we've built a shared force. I won't be surprised in the next future if we have like a tech policy shaper platform organization that there are some of our past participants. We have some in climate, we even have some in economics, because not only they've learned how to write policy, they now know how to organize the policy hackathon. And I think that's a transformative part of this experience for us. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a really good point. And Terry actually took, so from the second edition, Terry actually took the team members who who had their policy ideas on the student loan issue to the National Assembly. Terry, I mean, do you want to just chime in on that? So what was that experience like? And what do you think is the potential for us to be able to get more young people to have their voices represented at the National Assembly?
Okay, thank you, Eben. And hello, everyone. So I think that many times young people, for want of a better word, complain, right, about things that are not working well in society. And my pushback to them is you have representatives, right from your ward, your community, your ward, your local government, your state. You have House of Assembly. You have people representing you at the national. You have senators representing you. Take your complaints to them, put it in writing, and take it to them. And just looking at it from afar, it looks like an impossible task. It looks like they are there and we are here. But that experience of just having a group of people come up with an argument and presenting that argument to policymakers was very impactful. It drew home the fact that change is possible. It's not just to talk about it in our corners, complain about it in our community of practice, in our groups, but and they will listen. I mean, for those of us that went there that day, the deputy speaker actually gave us audience. He listened to what we had to say. It didn't matter if we had 12 points, at least 11 of them, other stakeholders had mentioned there, but he was okay with policy shapers also presenting our case. And so the encouragement for me is we look at all these policy ideas that are coming through our policy hackathon, and we develop them into policy memos and present them through public hearing at the National Assembly. And I think that going forward, we should do more of that. And policy shapers actually present the platform to pull in opinions, to pull in thoughts, to pull in ideas from young people, and then work with you to deliver these ideas in policy memos to lawmakers. And I want to encourage more of that as we go along. So So that's the experience, and that's the next step I see in this conversation. Thank you, Eben. Let me hand it back to you.
Amazing. Thank you. No, thank you so much, Terry. Very, very well said. Okay, so two more questions. I'll ask a question to Toby and one more to Terry, and then we'll do the wrap up. So coming to you now, Toby, all of these policy memos that have come out of the Nigeria Policy Act, right? Wonderful ideas, very beautiful ideas, right? What do you think we can, like, Terry has given us one of the steps, taking them to the policymakers directly, right? Ensuring that these public hearings, all of these forums that give us the chance to get youth voices out there, we leverage them really, really well. But from an IT perspective, from a technology, because I'm asking you because you're the tech expert in a group, what do you think we can do from a tech perspective to be able to like move these policy ideas forward, and some of the ideas that I think that we can push together forward as an organization?
You're muted, Toby.
Sorry, Toby, you're muted.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think also, thank you. Like Terry said, advocacy is one very key part of what it is that we currently need to do more of. But I also think that we should also still try to see how beyond they should not just end as policy, notes. We should see how we can align each of these policies with existing frameworks. So take, for example, there's a lot of conversation right now on the AFCFTA. And I know that some of the policies that we've worked on, in different ways can tie into this framework, for example. This is, one framework that is very tied to Africa's prosperity. A lot of conversations around Africa trading with each other, African countries rather trading with each other, and also trading with the rest of the world, especially, in the Trump world that we live in right now. And I'd like to see that a lot of these policies have a lot of young people, raise advocacy around each of these individual things. But also, I like to see that we are also able to drive e-policy dialogues. Essentially, we can then, in our own local communities, I think it's something that we've always talked about, which is the possibility of even understanding, when I use Bangkok, for example, in Bangkok, I saw young people who now understand, at what levels do these policies matter? Is this a responsibility of the state government? They had it in their argument, or is this a responsibility of the federal government? Or is this even a responsibility of the local governments that, sadly is not so existent in many parts of Nigeria? And so if we're able to then say that we understand which tier of government it is, we can then see that we can use a lot more technology to see how we can drive a lot more advocacy. Because you see, the funny truth is this, and I'm sure that a lot of us will agree with me. Some leaders in Nigeria do not even know that a lot of problems are within the purview of their own office. I have interacted with a lot of people who are like, oh, that's supposed to be the federal government. And you're like, no, that's supposed to be the job of the local government chairman, for example. And they're like, oh, that's the local government chairman's responsibilities. And so if we can, start to see that the result of these can continue to drive this part of conversations, it would also make sense. But also, I think what we can also do is also, I was thinking of this, when we finish the Bangkok Act, possibility of us also looking for local NGOs who these policies can help, because it's sort of research, it's like research materials for them. It's like you've done half of the work for them, or in some cases maybe all the work for them, and so they're able to then have more clarity or insight into understanding these things. And because again, it's it's well-written papers, people competing, 6-7 people, in Bangkok, the guy that won, was like best graduating student. So like that's a really brilliant dude, working on a policy document. And I'm sure that what he has worked on is going to be like the same, level of quality to what has given him a first class, And so it means that if that policy gets in the hands of an implementation agency like an NGO who is doing active work in that field, it then means that you're able to then, take this solution and start to see how they can implement. But also, most importantly, he also sees that his own work is translating into development, which of course is one of the most interesting ways for development to continue to succeed. If people see that what they are doing is bringing about real life change, they always want to do more and continue to do that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Toby. And I think I agree. I think just like connecting it to real local solutions and making people see that this is not just, this is not just a jamboree. And I think that's something that's been really close to our hearts, ensuring that this is not just a thing people come to do, but that it can actually be really, really actionable. Okay, so now moving on from Nigeria Policy Hack, we've talked about Reform ILs, talked about Nigeria Policy Hack. Those are two big projects that we did. This year, we ventured into another unknown space of trying to work around how youth can lead visioning. And Terry has vast experience in working with state governments to develop like long-term plans. And so this is not a new thing, because Terry and I had worked on teams that have basically done this, right? But the twist that we brought into this is usually these things will be done by people at the civil service, people in government. But we said, since we're a youth-led policy organization, how can young people lead the process of visioning for the future? So just to come to you, Terry, what do you think about this, this new thing that we're trying to do? Because it's not something we're seeing anybody else doing, right? It's one of the new innovative things, just like everything else that we've done. What do you think about it? And comparing this experience of how the project is going to how the other plans you've worked on are, like the things we've done with the various states that we've been able to support. What do you hope that the project will achieve as well for Rivers State? This is the Rivers 2050 vision. What do you think is going to achieve for Rivers State? And what role do you see policy shapers playing as well in that mix? Yeah.
All right, thanks, Eben. I think I'll just backtrack a bit, right? My first exposure to long-term development plan was actually development partners-led development plans. And so when we got into working with state governments and the public sector, we thought we had a novel idea, and we called it state-led development plans, because we didn't want development partners, we didn't want multilateral organizations to come and start telling us how to be, what to do. And so in our previous organization where I and Eben worked, we championed state-led development plans. But right now, the era we're in and what we're doing with the Rivers 2050 vision is citizens-led development plans. So this is not just, so we have moved from technocrats from other countries telling us what to do, how to do it. And then we have also shifted from government and public sector and private sector people, industry experts, telling us what to do and how to do it. Now we have gone to everyday citizens. Look at where you are, look at the state where you are, look at Rivers State, and recommend what should happen. How should development look like? So just to first lay that background to say that, and that's a big shift, that's a big shift, and that's something very exciting. It's almost like saying that we should choose our leaders, right? And then we go to the polling units, we vote, and then we elect our leaders. So it's the same way I view this. We coming together and then saying this is how we want our development to look like. This is what we want our schools, our hospitals. These are the kind of roads. These are the kinds of systems we want put in place for us. So what that team is doing, it's very, very novel and very exciting. It's an innovation that I haven't found anywhere, to be honest. I have researched, I have done long-term development plan. This is the first of its kind where citizens are taking ownership, And what I see policy shapers doing is providing that platform for people to even come together and think of a possibility. Nobody thought it was possible for citizens to come together and design what a state should look like and talk about the various sectors that have competitive advantage. We understand that governance takes a lot, covers a lot, we'll not be able to do everything, but just having these town hall meetings with citizens of Rivers State to say, what are your priorities? And folks have been able to prioritize to say, okay, let's look at education, health, tourism. People have been able to give that priority to say, let's focus on this. I think the next step is to continue to engage, right? Get more people to engage, get more people to be comfortable with the fact that they can design their own state. They can design their own local government, their own communities, their own towns and cities. When we get to that place where everybody is on an equal playing ground, and then we can now begin to push it to the leaders to say, this is what we want. We can now begin to demand that level of accountability to say, okay, you want to build roads, Port Harcourt is saturated, go to Ahoda, go and build flyovers in Elele, go to, I don't know, where else is there? in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, go to these
Connor,
other places, and
they should come to my
we
village.
begin to drive development. This is what we want. This is how we want it. And it's something that I believe very strongly it will happen, and it will change how our leaders, how they drive development. Moving from here, we need to also begin to engage the lawmakers in Rivers State, right? I know maybe it's a bit shaky right now, but I have faith in government. I'm one of those I know that people say Nigeria will happen to you, but trust me, you can also happen to Nigeria. And right now, Rivers 2050 is happening to Nigeria, and Policy Shapers is there to pioneer it and work with everyone to achieve it. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, no. I think Terry has put a subtle challenge to us to say that there are local governments, guys. There are local government, and there are other states. Rivers State is just one out of 36 states. So there are other states and there are local governments as well. And now that local governments will start beginning to get their money directly, what's the plan for these 700 plus local governments? What's the plan for them and how they want to be able to implement that? So there's the scale of the work, I think, is very, very huge. And I hope that we can use Rivers 2050 as a pilot to be able to show what's possible so that we can then begin to expand and scale our work to the end. Okay, final question. I know we've been here for 1 hour plus. Final question now. With Africa, just seeing what's happening across the continent, there are coups. Most of West Africa were having coups. Democracy seems to be shrinking really, really fast. And I think Terry, in her response, touched on this a bit, on how she thinks that this could become a new form of democracy. What role do you want to see policy shapers play for the next 5 years, the next 10 years? What role should we play in ensuring that citizens can take their place as the most important stakeholder in a democracy, especially in Nigeria's democracy and across the continent? What role do you want to see us play? What are some of the beautiful ideas that you basically have and you want to see us demonstrate over the next decade? Kenny, let me start with you. Yes, your hands are already raised.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eben, for that. I think there are two major roles we need to play. One, informational basis, demystifying like what I call myths. So we are in a world where we just see, like particularly in the African continent, where a lot of things are not working and people are frustrated by the leaders. And they think that even this quiz is a solution to it. Now, I think that policy paper needs a very active role to play there. Like, the frustration is this, but history has taught us over the years that this is never a solution to it. So I think we have that critical role firstly to play, because I can see recently, and I'm not going to mention him, a lot of commendation to some of the coup that's taking place and some of the massive changes. And as an organization, we cannot necessarily put that. And I know this is a dicey topic, but we have a major role to play. Now, the second half of it then becomes which is example, the Rivers 2050 is a massive part of it. That we can envision the world we want, the nation we want, the continent we want. That, we've been saying that our leaders should solve this just by voting in. Democracy is beyond voting, even though it's the most critical part of it. Democracy has been an active part of it by envisioning something like this. So I see policy people playing a role in seeing Lagos 250, Ogundis. I'm from Ondo State. I want to see Ondo 250 or whatever it is. And I want to really shape out the country because we have multiple stakeholders. If there's one thing I like, and last point I'm going to make about this current Rivers 2050 is, I look at the focus group and I was like, oh my God, how is Eben and his team doing this? Because I'm not actively involved in that due to the Babcock University stuff that I did. Is we bring the best experts in this particular sub-thematics. So it shows clearly that, to my own large opinion, most civil service people that are shaping these policies do not have PhDs and do not have years of experience in it. So it seems that even the most important knowledge needed is with the citizens. And I think we have a major role to play in kind of shaping the next democracy by, recapitulating some of these initiatives. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Chim, do you want to go next?
Yes, I think it's just in support of what Kenny has said. Like right now, you can see that I don't have light, or there's kind of some lights there.
Power. It's also why Comfy had gone
I think it also happened to Comfy also. So we should never be comfortable with this state. And young people, so I want to see that young people are not comfortable and that they are showing this through maybe writing, whether it's writing news, writing on Twitter. We have Twitter, we have all platforms, galvanizing fellow young people to register for votes, register to vote, get your PVC, make sure that you do vote when it is. We have gone through probably 4 elections now, and in those elections, there have been cases of going to courts with the same story. that what was voted at the polling booth was not the same thing that was reported at the state. So as young people, no matter anyhow, we must find a way to fix it. I was shocked that last election that young people were not detailed enough to have all the voting slip captured, everything on their devices when they were there. In fact, I was so confident that if they go to that court, that young people have become matured enough that they had basically all the what do you call it, voting, what do you call it?
Result sheet, yeah?
The result sheet.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So it's really terrible that when it came to that point of maturity where we should show why we use phones and all those stuff, that the people who needed evidence came to court and nobody could provide
there was no evidence,
all of those things factually. You get, so these are the things I want young people to be about. So it's not for violent protests and all those. No, there's a way to engage stakeholders. There's a way to prepare yourself and ensure that we don't repeat this thing again. We don't give room for an election or a leader or a government that doesn't help us in any way. 9 years ago, most of us were complaining that dollar was to 150 to how much naira? A dollar to 150 naira. How are we comfortable that dollar is to 1,500? So it's within just same leadership, same political party. So we have to come together as young people and ensure that democratically that we galvanize ourselves, we build that capacity, that knowledge, that maturity to ensure that our votes count in the next election. Yeah, so that's just my own input on this.
Very, very, very well said, Chimdi. As young people, we should not get comfortable with the abnormalities. I mean, the reason why Comfy is not on the screen is because she's having the spa issues where she is, and as you can guess, she's not in her current station where if she was where she's studying, she wouldn't be having power issues. So that alone speaks about the kind of abnormality that we're in as a country. So yeah, so we should not get comfortable. Toby, over to you. Toby and then Terry, and then.
I think that the key part for me is participation. I think that sometimes, especially in a very interesting way, it's probably very difficult to say this, but since the EndSARS and the massacre that happened after it, a lot of young people have sort of resorted to saying, "Oh, there's almost nothing they can do around a lot of social issues." We've seen quite a lot of young people just say, maybe we'll just let this guy do his presidency or do his governorship or whatever term of government it is, and we'll come back to it. But I think we should put more pressure on. We should continue to see more active participation beyond, even again, like we've been discussing, beyond just writing the policies, but to also let people understand that. And if you are elected and you cannot do it, feel free to to resign and let the fresh elections be conducted. It's not too much to ask. It happens everywhere in the world. If you give me a job and I find out that, this job is not the best job for me, I would resign, So we should also, encourage that to happen. But also, and this is probably the most important part that I want to say, I think that we should probably also talk to a lot more young people over the next couple of weeks, especially again, because elections are coming soon in Nigeria, to see more participation in governance itself. I think the fact that I did say it this way, and allow me to say it this way, it's probably very crude, but if we keep saying we want to stay on the sides, that's when we would have people who are not well informed, take these jobs, because the people who are supposed to do it, I mean, Chimdi trained in the US, Terry, Eben, Kenny, Comfy, just coming back from a program. And if we all say, "Oh, okay, we just want to stay on the sidelines, we don't want to actively participate in government," it means that the people who end up participating will be like our D7 governor in Edo State. And so that's a really big problem, because we give time and chance for inexperienced people or people who don't have any good left in them, to lead us and to run these offices. And that's a really big problem for me, because we need to be able to, for me, I think I've made up my mind to say that, despite the fact that I'm in private sector, I think that if there is any opportunity for us to, to say there's need for us to do good, to drag more young people to actively say, hey, I think that you do more good in government than, maybe you in this organization. Because if you look at it, see Rishi Sunak, from Goldman and Sachs to Prime Minister, back to Goldman and Sachs. And so that's what we need, not somebody coming from NURTW Park to Government House, and then from Government House, he thinks that it is his father's house and he wants to remain there. But yes, that's really the whole concept behind it.
Sounds like shots fired, but thank you. Thank you so
much. Well, that's why I said it's a really difficult part to say. But
that sounded very specific too.
So we have been firing a lot of shots, even to me here in the US. I just cannot comment how they carry me.
Terry, over to you.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I mean, I think that the role I see policy shapers playing in all this conversation is really showing young people the possibility that they can and will be change makers, right? During one of our town hall meetings, the CEO now of NESG, he said he dropped a comment that stayed with me. He said that if you're going to be a leader, that young people are not leaders of tomorrow. That if you're going to be a leader, something from his father, that you will already be leading right now. And the example he gave was his father as a 29-year-old young man already in the Supreme Military Council making decisions for the country. It may look like someone can say that was in those days, right? But I don't think so. If you're going to be a leader, you should be leading now, right? You should be in the governing council of your class in the university. If you're not the course rep, you should be the assistant. You should be doing something now so that you can build experience for leadership at public level. Whatever you're doing now. So young people not shying away from leadership starts from wherever you find yourself. You should speak up. Are you working in an organization? You should be a voice. You should keep your eyes open for what can be better wherever you find yourself. Begin to make things better. You cannot just come and say you want to drive change in Nigeria, 230 million people. No, you fail. You fail at it.
Like that.
Yes, don't shy away from that. Otherwise, it is people who, like Toby said, that are not quite competent. Just even understanding the legislative process of Nigeria is heartbreaking that people who have no business there are the ones making the laws for lawyers who spend 6 years, 5 years university, 1 year law school. They are the ones who make the laws that these learned colleagues use in deciding the lives and the future of others. So policy shapers really provides that platform of possibility for young people, and we will try to expand that platform through different channels and just make it work for all of us. So yeah, thank you. Back to you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Terry. That's very inspirational. Yeah, making people see that it's possible, because there's so much gloom and doom everywhere, right? Making people see that in the midst of this gloom, like it is really possible, to be able to drive that change. Comfy, are you able to speak? I saw you came on and went off video. But just in wrapping up, just to say that, yeah, everything that everyone had seen over the past 5 years has been driven by these people that you see on the screen, right? It's been Terry, it's been Toby, it's been Chimdi, it's been Kenny, it's been Comfy and I. And we don't even think we've been able to do it to the limit at which we can even do it. Like I know people see the work we've done. I'm like, oh my God, Reform IELTS, oh my God, Nigeria Policy Act, oh my God, this, and are inspired. But even us, we do know that we've struggled a bit because we've all had 9-to-5 jobs. Toby was doing Sherman scholarship, Kenny's doing his PhD scholarship, Comfy is doing her own master's scholarship in Australia. Chimdi had all of his, master's research work that he was doing and everything. And we combined all of this together, with the things that we've done. Policy Shapers hasn't paid any of us yet, right? It's been us instead investing all our resources into projects and stuff, all because I think we care about this country. We care about the future of the country. We care about democracy. We care about ensuring that citizens have a voice I mean, Kenny looks like he's even in the lab working as we're having this conversation. That citizens have a voice in the policy, right? And I think that's been the central thing to all that we've done. But as a team, we've looked at it and we know that like going on for the next 5 years, next 10 years as an organization, the organization needs to also get a life of its own. And so that's why, in the next couple of weeks and months, people will get to hear about our new advisory board. People will get to see a lot more structure. We want to put a lot more structure to the organization, and the organization will begin to have its own, volunteers and team and eventually staff, right, who will be able to run various aspects of the organization. And yeah, what we can tell you that, watch out for so many more things that we'll be doing, so many more projects as it relates to hackathons. The idea is for us to do geopolitical hackathons in the coming year, West Africa hackathon, engaging universities across the region. So there's so many ideas, so many things that we want to do. And we hope that we can count on your support. For those who are listening and watching this, count on your support for the donors and funders and those who support work like this. Count on your support as well to be able to get the resources that we need to be able to drive this. But yeah, it's been I'll say this is definitely one of the honors of my lifetime to be able to work with such an amazing team, to be able to deliver this. And I hope that we can, even when the organization grows and as guarantors of the company, we're not involved in day-to-day. I hope that we can continue to support, this organization, this thing that we've all built together. I hope that we can, continue to be active citizens. And who knows, Toby could be minister, Kenny could be governor, Terry could be, vice president or president. Who knows? Who knows what the next decade holds for all of us? But I'm sure that no matter what happens, we'll definitely still be all working towards, a better future for our country and for our respective states. So that's my closing words, guys. Thanks. It's been really
permit me to say one more word before we go. Okay. This is and I'm sure the team members here will agree. I like to think we do a lot of work, to make policy papers run, and we have our expertise. But all of us agree the person that does the most job is Eben here. And I want all of us, everybody listening to kind of help give him a round of applause because he has steered, most of this leadership and what everything happens. Not only does he come with ideas, not only does he delegate job, he delegated the hardest part to himself. That is fascinating to always see. And thank you so much, Eben. All of us appreciate what you do. I'm looking forward to working with you and everyone for the next 5 years and more,
Thank you so much, guys. This has really been amazing. Really want to be a wonderful experience. All right, thanks, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And happy anniversary. Yeah.
Happy anniversary, everyone.
Thank you.
Who knows
so
what
much,
Eben will be? By the next anniversary.
Who knows what Chimdi will be?
All right, so
bye, folks.
World leader.